Hello, welcome to Recapping with Delora
and Ashley.
Please follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Recapping Podcast.
Also, comment, rate, and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. We're on all the things.
We would love to hear your ratings of the movies and shows we review.
Email us your audio file to recappingpodcast@gmail.com and we will play it during the show.
Or DM us on Instagram and we will post and read it on air.
Thank you guys so much for listening.
Thank you. Hi, Ashley.
Hello, Delora. How are you?
I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm here. I'm making it.
I know. It's been a week.
Girl, they've all been a week, it feels like, for a very long time.
I know. And there's so much to cover this week. So let's go ahead and get into these hot topics, okay?
All right.
Lil Nas X dropped a brand new music video called Montero, parentheses, Call Me By Your Name. According to Rolling Stones, it is an unabashedly queer video. In this video, Ashley, Lil Nas X has a lot of imagery that Christians know quite well, right?
Yeah.
So, we start the video off. Lil Nas X is in the Garden of Eden. There's a snake. He plays all these characters, mind you, okay? So that plays into, temptation or the fall. He's judged in like this Roman,
Colosseum type of.
Exactly. And it looks like he was going to ascend to heaven. And then out of nowhere, a stripper pole to hell appears, and he rides it all the way down and gives a lap dance to the devil, snaps his head, and at the end of the video, it looks like he becomes the Prince of Darkness. Ashley, what were your initial reaction to this video?
I'm laughing because I thought I had seen it all. As I said to you, I thought I had seen it all. It's hard at this point to surprise and shock and awe. And I was shocked and awed. If I had pearls, I would have been clutching them. Because I just was not ready. First of all, who knew Lil Nas had them dance? Who knew he had them stripper skills? I heard that he got some lessons.
Yes.
But sir, you can do your thing. That's one thing. And the second, obviously, was just how controversial I had already started hearing that this video was, and everybody and their mom has an opinion about everything anyway. So, I was surprised, but this is the era we're living in. I'm more surprised by the Satan shoes, which I'm sure we'll get to, than the video itself. So those are my initial thoughts, Delora.
Yeah, so for me, okay, I get it. I understand that this is essentially Lil Nas X, giving it to Christians, right? He said in a statement that, he hated himself growing up, and he was taught
he was going to go to hell.
Exactly. And, one thing about Lil Nas X is that he is a troll, and he's a very good one. And he is trolling the F out of quote unquote religious people right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's one of those things where, he's trolling us by saying, okay, so if I'm going to live my life this way, I'm ride the king. Pole, the hill. You know what I mean?
Do my whole thing. I'm gonna be the king of this thing. I mean, I got to watch a reaction video on YouTube with a guy, and he came in and sat with him for his reaction and kind of gave a breakdown and explained it. So he definitely is taking the piss out of the situation for sure, for lack of a better term.
One of my favorite reactions was from Van Lathan, and I sent it to you, and I even put it on our Instagram. Please follow us at Recapping Podcast. Thank you on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Van, he put, I'm old because I don't play with Satan. I love Lil Nas X though.
Exactly.
When I tell you, I felt that in my bones.
Yes.
Like, I understand what Lil Nas X is trying to do with it, but what I'm not going to do is put a pentagram in anything that I do.
Exactly.
Ashley,
let's get to these shoes, girls. Get to these shoes.
I don't even listen to spells in movies because I don't know whether or not that mess is real or not. So this is how serious I am when I say I'm not serious, you know. Yes, I don't play with the devil stuff.
Absolutely. I told you, if I even saw somebody wearing them shoes, I'd be walking in the other direction because I just can't. I'm not playing with y'all. I'm not wearing anything that has the mark of the beast on it. What are we saying?
What are we doing?
What are we saying?
So, Ashley, you are referring to Lil Nas X Mischief collaboration Satan shoes, okay? These shoes are, repurposed Nike Air Max, 97s. They have 666 on it. They have the scripture where it talks about Satan dropping to the earth like lightning.
Yes.
It supposedly has a drop of actual human blood mixed in with red ink on the soles, and it retails for $1,018. And by the way, they are sold out.
Yeah, but Nike's suing because Nike said we don't want no parts of this nonsense.
What you're not going to do is cause confusion or delusion and create an erroneous association between Mischief's products and Nike. That's part of the official statement. Mm-hmm. So,
and mind you,
Mischief has a Jesus shoe, and none of that caused ruckus. So I'm just gonna put that out there. But Lil Nas X, being the troll that he is, just go to his Twitter. It's the funniest stuff. He has that one video that went viral, that prison guy who was singing for his parole or something, talking about, I'm sorry. It was hilarious. Like, he was like, Nike suing us. So I feel like he's prepared. Yeah.
And I mean, it's not like he's the first artist, especially in the pop game, who's told this line, especially when it comes to religion and being controversial. Again, he just took it to a step that I had not yet seen. And
Madonna did it in the 90s.
Yeah,
like a prayer.
I guess he even had to give credit to FKA Twigs, who had a video that he saw that was inspirational for the Montero video. Again, it's not a first. I just don't think I was ready for quite the level visually that day that I saw. But if this is the direction you want to go in as an artist, it's artistry. Do your thing. I'm not wearing no Satan shoes. Point blank, period.
I'm not doing it. Not doing it at all. So, okay. So we're going to go ahead and change the subject. So, Ashley, the NAACP Awards were over the weekend, actually on Saturday. Mm-hmm. And I bring that up because I'm so used to awards being on Sunday.
Right.
That when I actually didn't watch it from the beginning. And then when I caught it, I texted you. I was like,
yeah, hey. I forgot about it. I knew it was coming on. And I just totally forgot about it. But I have gone back and watched the entire show now. So,
yes.
Thank you.
And so we're going to just talk about the highlights. Anthony Anderson, this is his 8th year in a row hosting this.
He said them checks clear.
Girl, he said the AA in NAACP stands for Anthony Anderson. That cracked me up. I loved his monologue where he highlighted, the toilet paper shortage, Postmates, Tiger King, D Nice versus The Last Dance, and of course, Biden Harris. Let's talk about the winners, okay? And specifically the winners of the televised show. So Issa Rae won for Insecure.
Yes,
and this is major because Tracy Ellis Ross takes that home every year practically.
Yes, she basically said, thank you for losing, Tracy. Thank you.
Ray Gay, Sean Page won for Bridgerton, which I loved, but I also was like, you're up against Sterling K. Brown, though.
No, for real.
But I'm really happy for him, and I absolutely loved his speech. Again, he spoke to Go check out our Bridgerton podcast where I highlight some of his awesome quotes, but his speech was beautiful. He says that it is the highest honor to represent us in the fullness of our humanity, the fullness of our joy, of our glamour, of our splendor, of our royalty, and of our love. Oh, reggae. Okay. So I wanted to highlight that.
Swoon, baby.
Oh, yes, Duke. Okay, so Best Actress in a Drama, Viola Davis for How to Get Away with Murder, which is fantastic because this was in its final year. Mm-hmm. She won again for Best Actress in Motion Picture for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. Chadwick Boseman won for Best Actor in a Motion Picture, and his widow gave a beautiful speech. Now, every time she gives these speeches, I am absolutely heartbroken every time.
Absolutely.
But this speech was much different than the previous ones because she went ahead and highlighted the importance of getting colon cancer screened. Mm-hmm. And in her speech, she says, Black people are 20% more likely to be diagnosed with colon cancer and 40% more likely to die from it. This disease is beatable if you catch it in its early stages. You are so needed and so loved. Please take your health into your own hands. Gorgeous.
Yeah, and she looked amazing as always.
As always. All right, I also want to highlight, girl, Best Motion Picture. I'm gonna just read off this nominees list really quick because this is needed. Okay. In this category, One Night in Miami, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, Jingle Jangle, A Christmas Journey, Defy Bloods, Bad Boys for Life. Ashley.
I'm just gonna say that of those listed, the majority we've recapped, and there's one that we probably would not, and that one was...
The winner in this category, Ashley, was Bad Boys for Life.
Yeah.
Ashley, yeah. Okay. When they announced this, I was like, what?
I think that we were absolutely on the same page about that. And again, I was surprised that it was even in the category,
it didn't deserve
let alone
to be there.
The winner of that category.
So it was to the point, it was so bad, Ashley. And, you know, this is what I put in our text conversation. It's almost in this is a joke category. Like this is a joke. This award is a joke. If you're giving Bad Boys for Life Best Motion Picture for the entire year up against Jingle Jangle, up against Ma Rainey, up against One Night in Miami. What?
Yeah, like I said, it was shocking, especially because of the body of work that Black filmmakers have done. Like, I could even see if this was a year where not a lot had really come out or had been released, but it was an exceptional year for Black filmmakers. So
absolutely,
it hit even a little bit lower for me because of that.
It did. And we respect the NAACP, but that was a disappointment.
Somebody called in a favor. I don't know.
Had to.
Yeah.
Had to. So
y'all let us know what y'all think. Was that a snub? Please.
Social Justice Impact winner Stacey Abrams, which is well deserved. I mean,
absolutely. They created that award brand new.
They did. And because it's new, I'm going to go ahead and list the nominees. April Ryan, Debbie Allen, LeBron James, and Tamika Mallory. And then Entertainer of the Year, the nominees are Tyler Perry, Trevor Noah, Viola Davis, Regina King, and D Nice, who is the winner. So it was a good award show overall. It wasn't bad. I don't know. I have to say BET Awards was probably one of my favorite quarantine awards this season so far. So, and you know, the Academy Awards aren't even doing it. So
yeah, it's been, I can't even think now about, and I think we talked about this before, about the BET Awards. The Soul Train Awards were phenomenal. I really enjoyed those that happened during quarantine. But Regina King looked amazing, by the way. That was my style moment.
And that's what I was going to get to. What are your favorite style moments? So we talked about the winners. So what's your favorite style moment?
It was absolutely Regina King in that dress. I did not look up designer or any of those things because she was just flawless. I loved it. I loved the braids with the pop of color. I thought Issa looked phenomenal as well.
Very angelical.
Yeah, angelic. Yeah, I thought that those two ladies really stood out for me. I thought there were some beautiful dresses, but those two were my favorite looks. What about you, Delora?
Yeah, Regina King was my number one, and my number two was Tracy Ellis Ross, and with the second look, because she had two looks.
I want Tracy to be my long lost auntie. I just want to blend in with her family just a little bit.
She did a Vogue 73 questions one time, and they were like, "Who's your style icon?" And she's like, "Hopefully me." And she's like, I can look back and say me. And I'm like, okay.
I thought she would say like her mother or okay. I mean, she does have phenomenal style for sure. But it has to be, she had to be saying that humorously because usually she's not quite that person. But love her though. You never love her. I mean, obviously, we don't know any of these people. This is all pure speculation. I said, I hope she's my long lost auntie. I don't think we're of relation. So, bummer.
So, all right, our next hot topic, Quavo and Saweetie elevator situation.
Why does shit always go down in the elevator?
Girl. So TMZ earlier this week released a video showing an altercation between Quavo and Saweetie that apparently happened last year. In this video, they are fighting over some type of Call of Duty suitcase. The first shot, you see she's swinging at him, and then something happens, and he takes the case, and she goes with it, and she's swung against the door, and she's on the floor for the majority of the video. He's looking at her. He then looks at the camera like, I hope they're not videotaping.
Yeah, like, oh shit.
And then at the end of the video, they leave. He doesn't help her up or anything, and she limps out the door. So we hadn't heard from anyone up until today. Saweetie broke her silence and said, this unfortunate incident happened a year ago. While we have reconciled since then and moved past this particular disagreement, there were simply too many other hurdles to overcome in our relationship, and we have both since moved on. She added, I kindly ask that everyone respect my privacy during this time. And this I found on page 6. So, Ashley, what are your thoughts on this whole situation? Is this abuse?
Oh my goodness. I don't honestly have a lot to say about this because it's very hard to be a spectator and come in on a video and have very strong opinions besides the fact that it didn't look good, didn't look right, looked like something was amiss, looked like there may be some type of issue in their relationship that was of an abusive nature.
Yeah, very toxic, right?
I know that the internets want to speculate and people seem to be having very hard stands one way or the other. I would just say, obviously, abuse and domestic violence are never okay, never justified. And I hope that if that was the case, that she definitely is now out of that situation and has moved past it because, you know, this is coming on the heels, obviously, of them breaking up and us thinking that he had possibly cheated and all these things. So it's definitely, you know, adding fuel to the fire. Girl. But I just don't I don't want to sit here and try to speculate on whether or not I think Quavo was abusing her behind the scenes outside of these few seconds of a video that we got to witness. So that's where I'm at with it.
So for me, yes, is it wrong that she was throwing, you know, her hands at him? Sure. But the way he swung her, for that case. Obviously, something's important in that case. And again, this happened last year. So that meant.
What was in that freaking case?
Exactly. But I mean, he didn't even help her up. She's limping out the door. I just feel like I have never, ever been a part of any type of scuffle in that way.
I haven't either.
And with that, the lack of respect is where I have a problem. And again, yes, a woman should never throw hands on a man and all that, but he needs to not feel like he can throw his girlfriend in the elevator for whatever that was in that case. I'm sure something materialistic, right?
I mean, it's so
no, we don't have the whole
say.
story. We don't have the whole story, but there's just some things that are just not okay. And so, and my last point to that is, if he felt that comfortable doing that in public, I just wonder what is going on privately.
Yeah, again, that's why I just don't have much for this. I know sometimes I get very robust in my opinions. This isn't one that I had a very strong opinion on because it didn't look good. I mean, that's what I have for you. It didn't look good, and it didn't seem like it was possibly the first time. But I can't speak of what happens behind closed doors with couples. I'll just know it didn't look good. Didn't look good, sir.
It did not. All right. And I thought it was worth bringing up considering they were a hot topic a couple of weeks ago. So
yeah, just last week, I think, right?
So yeah, best wishes to both parties, but you know, he got a couple of strikes against him at this point in my book.
Yeah. We'll see what happens. It seems like this stuff comes and goes in the public sphere, as we know. So
yes. All right. So we're going to do a quick speed round and provide some updates. So first update, really quick, Tiger Woods' crash cause has been determined. However, they're not going to release the details to the public just yet. I guess in California, there's some type of law that said that people who are just in pure accidents, they're allowed to their privacy before it's released to public record. So I thought that was interesting. All right, number 2, Sharon Osbourne is out of the talk.
Deuces.
According to Page 6, her settlement is anywhere from $5 million to $10 million payout for quote unquote leaving the show. I'm sure.
Well, we didn't know how much she had left on her contract, so.
Yeah, but in their investigation, they found so much from past.
I'm sure.
Hosts.
We heard quite a bit, just publicly.
Quite a bit, and even Elaine and her hair stylist put formal complaints out there, which extended their hiatus, but they're set to come back in a couple of weeks. And one last thing, Ashley, I wanted to bring this up. That fine meteorologist on Good Morning Britain, Alex Burdiford, he is replacing Piers Morgan in the morning for the host seat. And so to me, that was really fun and exciting. So
yeah, and he's fine too.
Girl. Anyway,
another one that beats out Prince William in the sexiest bald man contest. Okay, I'm sure listeners, y'all heard about that ridiculousness, and we just want to know that was not a legit survey. That was not a legit poll. There was no woman in the world who said that besides Kate. Okay,
the British press. I'm not the British press. I'm talking the Buckingham Palace PR group is in overdrive right now.
Exactly. Get out of here with these shenanigans, people.
And with that is our hot topics today. So Ashley, Are you ready for the recap?
I am, girl. So this week we are doing Ginny and Georgia. This is a Netflix original series. 10 episodes, dropped back February 24th. It's really been in and out of top 10 since then. It's currently listed at number 4.
Yes.
So I'm not sure what continues to propel the popularity.
What's the resurgence? I wonder.
But clearly the word of mouth or something is keeping it going. And also those Netflix metrics, okay? So quick summary. Free-spirited Georgia and her 2 kids, Ginny and Austin, move north in search of a fresh start, but find that the road to new beginnings can be bumpy. I also love this from a Marie Claire article that I read. Ginny and Georgia is half thriller, half coming of age story with little sprinkles of comedy in between serious moments. It's a grab bag, and there's truly something for everyone in this addicting new show. So, Delora, we're looking at first timers here that were involved in Ginny and Georgia. First time creator, Sarah Lampert. First time showrunner, Deborah J. Fisher. So shout out to those ladies. Let's get into this cast. We have Antonia Gentry as Jenny Miller. We have Brienne Howie as Georgia Miller. We have Diesel.
Really quick, I have something to say about her. My first introduction to her was the Exorcist, the Fox show, original show. It only had 2 seasons. The first season, she was the demon-possessed daughter.
Oh Lord!
And I can't get her possession out of my face. So to see her in this role was just like completely a new light, because she did it so well. I give her props.
Oh yeah, she's a really good actress. For some reason, my second viewing, she gave me Julia Roberts vibes. I don't know if it's the smile, but it's something that they have that's very similar in appearance.
And I actually saw an interview, and she said a lot of people compare her smile to Julia Roberts.
It really caught me. So shout out to you, Brienne. You definitely did your thing. Diesel LaTorrica as Austin Miller, Jennifer Robertson as Ellen Baker, Felix Millard as Marcus, Sarah Weisglass as Maxine, Scott Porter as Mayor Paul Randolph, Raymond A. Black as Joe, Nikki Ramel as Teenage Georgia, Mason Temple as Hunter, Katie Douglas as Abby, Chelsea Clark as Nora, Colton Gobo as Jordan, Tyson Smith as Brody, Damian Romeo as Matt Press, Sabrina Gerdovich as Cynthia, Dan Bierney as Nick, Nathan Mitchell as Zion, and Alex Malari Jr. as P.I. Gabriel Cordova. So let's get into these ratings. Rotten Tomatoes, 68% for both critics and audience score, but 86% with Google users. So Delora, as usual, I've given everyone else's opinion but ours. Give me your grade for the Netflix hit Ginny and Georgia.
My grade would be a C-.
Okay.
So I watched it all. I was invested. Okay. But the tone of the show was a little bit all over the place for me.
I see that.
Like, am I supposed to laugh? Like, I say that because the first time I laughed, I think it was like even a couple of episodes in, I'm like, so this is a joke, right? Okay. And then when it comes to George's character, is she actually evil and sinister, or is she just a woman who's trying to make ends meet? I actually wasn't able to come to a conclusion with that. And, again, I didn't know how to feel about it, because I was like, oh, so this is like Gilmore Girls meets the life of the American teenage, show meets, because I think they make fun of the wokeness in some ways, you know what I mean? And I'll explain that later, but that's where I am. How about you, Ashley?
Okay. Well, I gave this show a B. And previously, this was a hidden gem for me because I binged it within a day, the first time that I watched it. And I think what continues to give my B rating, because I thought hard about this, to your point, my second time watching, I was like, there's definitely a lot going on with this show. But I think what gets me is that it just surprised me so much with what it ended up being. I remember telling you, I thought it was going to be like this really run-of-the-mill suburban family story, and it was so much darker and more twisty than I expected. So to your point, Gilmore Girls, all of those. But listen, it's also some Twin Peaks. It's definitely some dark humor in there. And I am a very dark humor person. I still watch the War of the Roses and laugh hysterically. So it's just my genre maybe, but that's why it gets a B. So spoiler alert, we will talk more about this as we get towards the end, guys. But we're about to go ahead and get into the good, because as I said, there's a lot to discuss in this tale of Ginny and Georgia season 1. So, Delora, we're going to start with the beginning of the season, episodes 1 through 3. So let's get going. So this show, as we kind of kick off, we start hearing first but from Ginny, narration. So she's a teenager. We meet her at the same age she was when her mother Georgia had her, which is 15 years old, right?
So young.
Yeah, so we kind of get into the family dynamic. Her stepfather Kenny is killed in a car accident and dies. So her little brother Austin and Georgia moved to Wellsbury, Massachusetts. Ginny says later on in a conversation with one of her friends that the reason why they move so much is always about a freaking guy. So we see racially charged moments throughout this show, but it hits us very early on, even with this interaction almost with a police officer, right? Ginny is pumping gas on her mother's BMW. It seems like the cops all of a sudden going to approach the car until Georgia walks up, right? So one thing that I'm glad is that the show did not shy away from those moments, especially because you have this biracial child who's being raised by this white mother and is going to this affluent white suburb. Whether it's the North or the South, you're still going to experience racism.
Yes. Well, I have something to say to that point, because the way I viewed it was, okay, here we go again. Like, I didn't know the tone of the show originally, right? So I'm just like, are they just throwing in this in the show since we're in such a heightened moment societally, you know what I mean, when it comes to
you couldn't tell how genuine it was.
Yeah, I couldn't tell that. Exactly.
Okay. Any other thoughts on this scene? Because I did want to pause and give you a minute to discuss your thoughts.
Nope, you keep going.
Okay. So we get flashes as we keep going of Georgia back in her youth, because her real name is Mary Delora, and we see that she was abused and had to basically flee this trailer for her life, right? She adopts the name Georgia when she made it to that state. Basically, she's asked her name. She looks over, she sees the state of Georgia sign. She ends up getting this mentor and a biker chick who tells her, you get more flies with honey, but if you get yourself a bee, sting first, right? So that's a mantra she lives by, and even her kids live by as we grow into, current day Georgia. We see she meets Jenny's dad, who was 17 at the time, Zion, and he also seemed like he was going through a little bit of something. He's supposed to be on a gap year, but he's still in, and obviously has no problem dating this little 14 or 15 year old. So it's an interesting connection in a bar. He had stole someone's ID. I mean, it was just it was interesting, meet cute, if that's what we want to call it.
Yeah, if that's what we want to call it.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think it's interesting because he's quote unquote finding himself, but I feel like that'll definitely come up in conversation later. But
yeah, I mean, he references the Jack Kerouac book, right? Yes. And being on the road and what have you. But again, he's doing some things that speak to maybe you weren't mature enough yet for this phase of life, sir. So
not at all.
Anyway, I love this line from Jenny. She ends up saying, I'm not going to be white and bougie even if you put me in a cable knit sweater, because once they're in Wellsbury, again, you have the encounter with the cop, but they get to this new house. It's big, it's beautiful. They're getting settled. And it seems like her mother's all of a sudden trying to get her to fit into this new suburban affluent community they're coming into. But Jenny, she's not here for it. She's not excited about the move. She doesn't seem excited about life. Or
she's an angsty teenager.
She's super angsty, right? Like her mom and her seem like they have a bond. It seems like they're close. Meeting her mom is like this angsty teenage thing. Like, frankly, I'm bored, right? I'm over it. So Georgia again, trying to get her kids acclimated, shows up to Austin's first day of school looking like Elle Woods from Legally Blonde.
I thought the same thing. I was like, that's literally plucked from that movie to the show.
Absolutely. Like, I feel like that was a dress in Elle's wardrobe, and they just brought it over.
And everything.
Yes. She immediately meets the Mean Mom crew, as I dubbed them, run by Cynthia. And we see little Austin is getting bullied, right? Like right off the bat. So again, new to this school, new to this community, does not seem to be going really, really well for the family thus far. So at her new school, though, beef between Ginny and her AP English teacher starts immediately because he questions whether she could keep up. She put him on blast for only promoting the white male perspective. Delora, were you here for this scene in which it seems like Ginny kind of put her AP teacher in his place?
Absolutely. I loved every minute of it. And just because I wish we were a little bit that aware at that age, because I was not.
No, especially not with authority. I don't think I was there to question authority in that way.
Exactly. But I thought they were valid points. It's like the greats, these are all predominantly white male pieces of work. Where's James Baldwin? Where's Maya Angelou? Where's, I'm not a lit major, so I don't know other people's work as well, but I was just very impressed. And I also felt like his ego was a little bit too fragile to get his feathers so ruffled by a 15-year-old girl, essentially shoving it back in his face. Because
exactly.
Assumption it almost reminds me of the comment that Meghan McCain made on The View the other day, where when a Black person goes into a space, people assume it's affirmative action or a diversity quota, instead of wondering, oh my gosh, this person is probably overqualified for the position and they have been overlooked due to mediocrity, according to Sunny.
Point blank, period. Love Sunny Halston.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it was just, he started the relationship on a foot that made me very satisfied with what Ginny said, because not only was she accurate, but it was also, if you're gonna question my intelligence and this is my first day, you don't know anything about me, then I'm gonna show you exactly who I am, and I'm gonna do it in a way that embarrasses you, and I'm gonna get my point across so that you never make this mistake again. And I was fully here for this particular scene. I can't say that I always agree with Ginny, because I think sometimes she popped off a little bit too much for me.
Yep.
But in this moment, I was with you, sis. Even though she has this moment with the English teacher, Ginny quickly gets a crew at school led by Maxine. As Maxine says, though, we have more Starbucks than Black people, right? She is a little bit much. She's a little overwhelming in terms of her approach. She barely stops speaking when she's kind of introducing Ginny to everybody else. But you can tell Ginny is excited to be meeting people and having friends and kind of getting introduced to this world, because as we go on through the series, we realize because Ginny moves so much, she's never had friends before.
Exactly.
So this is exciting.
And that was one of the things I really enjoyed about this actress. Again, there were plenty of moments where she was annoying, and it was her character.
Yes.
But you can see the subtlety in her face when, she's, entering a new group, or, they want to do go to a party or something like that, and you can see the wheels turning on her face, and I thought she captured that extremely well. She was on the ride with her.
She was the first person cast in this series, and I think that they hit the nail on the head. She was the first person cast, and Georgia Brienne was the last person cast. Wow. So yeah, they hit the nail on the head for sure. But we also see that Ginny has a connection with Maxine's twin brother, Marcus, the boy next door, or across the street in this case, right? Georgia, but also befriends their mother, Ellen. Shout out to Jocelyn Schitt's Creek, baby.
Yes, I was so happy to see her in a really nice haircut instead of the awful wig. She's a beautiful
looked phenomenal.
woman.
She looked phenomenal. I was here for it. It's like your heart flutters to see somebody from a show you love. So
Absolutely.
It was such a nice casting. Bracia, one of the 7 Black kids at school, tries to befriend Ginny in the process of her kind of getting acclimated. And we'll see more of Bracia. We'll get back to Bracia. Yeah. But I just wanted to go ahead and mention it now.
Yeah. I didn't like how Ginny treated her.
I don't think a lot of Black people who watch this show liked how Ginny treated her. But we're going to get back to that for sure. As another footnote on kind of this entry into school and everything, she gets busted shoplifting, Delora, with these new friends, Abby and Nora.
You need to say quote unquote friends.
Quote unquote. Well, I was going to say, I didn't care for Abby. And that holds true throughout the entirety of the series.
The entirety of the show, because she's trash. I'm sorry. I know these are teenagers.
Lord Jesus.
Did
y'all feel that? Because I felt that in my chest. Delora, say how you really feel, girl.
I don't, those shifty-eyed friends, don't trust them.
She just was never here for Ginny, and I don't like when someone is not welcoming to someone they don't even know, right? I just felt like she immediately had a problem, and I never identified what it was. I mean, I know later on they try to pacify it with, oh, she's going through things at home, but that still does not negate you being a trash person. And I'll say that about a couple of characters on this show. If you're a trash person, you may be going through things behind the scenes, but you can still be kind. You can still be open to Ginny, but you never were. So that's my problem with Abby. And then this scene with you getting busted shoplifting, it was Abby's idea. She threw Ginny under the bus, and then you even tried to throw her under the bus to her own mother. You thought that was gonna fly, sis?
It takes a con to know a con. So Georgia saw it a mile
absolutely
away.
And that's my daughter. Like, I know my child. I don't know you, but I know my child.
And again, for Ginny to be intellectually brilliant, right? Courtesy of her dad, because apparently he's well read or whatever, and he passed that along to her.
Mm-hmm.
And again, she has the ovaries needed to speak truth to power. But it seemed like she couldn't even stand up for herself in her peer group.
She's still a teenager, I think, was the point of that, right? Again, because when you're talking about possibly the protection she's had to carry for herself to get through some of these moves and some of these situations, I think it's easier for her to be tough when it came to authority or some other. But once she started getting this click and she wants approval, because she even says that's Georgia, like, I just want them to like me, you know, and it's a level of vulnerability that I don't think she's even used to yet, because she hasn't had to deal with it. But inevitably Georgia's like, well, now you got to get a job. So you about to go work at Joe's restaurant, which we haven't talked about. I haven't talked about Joe yet, but Joe has been here in the series so far since the beginning. And Georgia makes it a point to always mess with Joe in certain ways. She finds ways to kind of get Joe to do her bidding, because she finds out early on that Joe is using college students and high school students essentially for free labor. And so she uses it against him to get him to offer a healthy alternative to lunch at school for elementary school, to give Ginny this job. She's going to use it later for an auction item at a poker game or a casino night. So, I mean, we're seeing the seeds set between her and Joe, but the dynamics definitely shift over the course of the show. So we'll get back to Joe as well. So Georgia is quite the people person, Delora, especially with men, right?
They are wrapped around her little pinky finger.
Listen, she eventually sweet talks her way into a job with the mayor's office, Mayor Paul Randolph, I should say. I never enjoyed this actor. I'm so sorry, Scott, but from Friday Night Lights, The Heart of Dixie to now,
was he
I'm never on your team
or something?
He's not a dick in these shows. He's always held up to this good guy, best option for the protagonist. I don't like it in his case. It's something, it's almost like, I don't know, almost like a Captain America complex.
I was just about to say, I mean, with Captain America, Chris Evans wins that for me all the time.
But you also love Chris Evans. So let's be clear that I feel like another yes, you are. Yeah. No, you love Chris Evans.
Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I've barely been able to watch it because I'm like, who is this man? Who is this man?
Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell's son
of all people.
Crazy.
Right now. But yeah. He knew he was going in with a lot of pressure, I'm sure.
Yeah, we digress, but I'll get back to those feelings too, because we'll get to that in terms of some love stories later on in the series. But yeah, he's just always held up to this standard, and I just haven't enjoyed him in that role. This is the first one actually where he's a little more layered, and we'll get to that. So again, sweet talks her way into this job, but she calls it resourcefulness, right? Really, it means she's gonna do shit by any means necessary. She helps her son break his bully's nose. Again, her son is 9. These kids are children, right? She breaks her son's bully's nose, or helps her son do it. He punches him in the face. She just helps to stop the blood. Stole from a store to finance her wardrobe. Like I said, blackmailed Joe into doing some things she needed to do, and the list goes on and on and on.
But why, Ashley?
She is a woman with a lot of secrets. She has a lot in her closet that she's had to do in her mind to get to where she needed to get to and fight to survive. So right now, though, because of the death of her ex, she's in a struggle with his ex-wife who's contesting the wheel. So her money is completely tied up that she thought she was going to get from her husband, because he was like the king of these yoga studios back in Texas.
Baboa.
Thank you. You know, he had his own little franchise going, so he has some money coming in, leading her to some shenanigans, though, like opening a credit card in her son's name and stealing money from sophomore sleepover that her daughter's going to have at school. So, I mean, morally, we're seeing some shenanigans going on with Georgia. But again, we're seeing it set up as in, I have to do what I have to do to survive and for the sake of my family, right?
Yes.
But we also see Delora, she put petals from a flower in Kenny's smoothie that seemingly caused his heart attack, an accident that killed him. We see that by the end of episode 1.
Yes.
It seemed like it was a reaction to an inappropriate moment with Ginny, but did you feel in this moment like, oh, Georgia may not be quite who we think she is, or she's a little darker than we thought? What were your reactions to that potential murder?
Well, for that particular murder, sorry.
Go ahead. Because there's more than one.
I felt like she was protecting her daughter. Again, at this phase, I felt like she's going to do whatever she has to do to protect and provide for her family, because it's just her and her kids, and she's been on her own since she was 15 years old.
Right. And we also saw that she was abused, so one could think at this point like it was possibly sexual. So yeah, it's going to trigger her if it seems like he was doing something inappropriate with Ginny. Now, does that constitute murder? We don't know yet, but as an audience, we can be the judge.
Yes. But it didn't sway how I felt about her. Like, I continue to watch, you know, it didn't turn me away.
She's also one of our protagonists. So it's like, but I'm still Team Georgia, because Georgia had to have a valid reason for what she did, right? Yeah. Yes. So let's talk guys. So we have some love situations brewing early. We have setup of Hunter versus Marcus, love triangle for Ginny. Hunter is set up as the smart good guy, and Marcus is set up really as the brooding bad boy. Over the course of the series, though, I feel like they give them way more layers than that, but that's just kind of the initial phase that I feel like we were introduced. Also, as Georgia points out, Hunter drives a fucking Porsche, right? Like, hello. Ginny loses her virginity to Marcus, but he's also seeing someone else, another schoolmate named Padma. He seems to enjoy climbing uninvited in and out of her window. And we also get kind of a footnote on his character in that his best friend died the year prior. So he's kind of depressed, kind of been going through some things and
kind of aimless.
Yeah. He's not what he necessarily originally seemed, because he seemed like an asshole at first. I'm gonna be honest. He seemed like a little dick. Hunter, though, asked Ginny to be his girlfriend by the end of episode 3. So, Delora, between this Hunter and Marcus dynamic, did you have a preference at the beginning of the season from episodes 1 through 3?
Episodes 1 through 3, I felt like she had the initial connection with Marcus, and it was his flippant behavior towards her in public, calling her, you know, just one of my sister's dumb friends and things like that, you know, deterred any from that going anywhere. Right. And so, but I, you know, you felt a deeper connection or attraction between Ginny and Marcus, you know, from day one. When it came to Hunter initially, he was fine. By the time we get to the middle, I'll have something else to say about him, but you know, he's good on paper.
Yeah. So I'm with you that I definitely felt like Marcus was who she gravitated towards from jump. And so I think it was because, you know, Marcus was seeing somebody else and he seemed like a dick and all these things that it even allowed for Hunter to kind of be brought into the equation. But I like Hunter. So we're definitely going to get back to this dynamic because I have my thoughts for sure. So let's get to Georgia's love life. Mayor Paul, I keep wanting to call him Mayor Pete because of Pete Buttigieg.
Of course.
Mayor Paul versus Joe.
Joe.
Would you have let the mayor watch your kid, by the way? She didn't know this man for real.
No. I don't trust anybody, but no.
Yeah. Like, I get it, but I get it that he seems like he's a good guy, but you don't actually know this person, right?
You don't know people. You don't know how people live.
At all. But in a flashback, we see teenage Georgia meet Joe as a teenager at a rest stop. So, you know, that was really the catalyst for her even ever wanting to move to Wellsbury, Massachusetts.
To know that it even exists.
Yes.
Okay. Like, I know about Massachusetts. I have no idea if Wellsbury exists really or not.
Oh, I don't either at all. But to carry that through for all these years and eventually move there, I still couldn't get a gauge at this point whether she knew that this was that Joe.
Yes.
Or whether she didn't, because again, all these years later,
she knows how to play the game, and she has a wonderful poker face. But yeah, I have no idea if she made that connection
at all. Couldn't tell. Did you have any preference for Mayor Joe or the mayor versus Joe at this point?
You know, I don't know what the rate is, but sometimes I like the obvious guy and sometimes I like the underdog. For this particular situation, I did like Joe a lot. Okay. Although I guess everybody is kind of shady. I just was like, oh, he's really doing this free labor thing, huh? But again, she didn't give him the time of day, though, that I would have liked in terms of at this point of the series.
She's much more focused than Ginny in terms of what it seems like she's looking for or focused on. Yes,
exactly.
Yes,
exactly.
There's not that level of confusion in her heart, right? Doesn't seem like it,
because she's going for status and she's going for money or presumed money.
She also has much more going on in her life and much more that she is distracted from, I feel like, too, because that
juggle two men.
Girl, she has a lot of secrets that we're gonna get to. So throughout these first 3 episodes, it seems like Georgia is really thinking she's doing what's best for her kids. But Delora, are the kids really all right? Because both dads are not around. Jenny's dad, Zion, travels as a photographer. Austin's dad is in prison for fraud and embezzlement, potentially because of Georgia. We see Jenny self-harming using a lighter. George is writing fake letters to Austin as his dad from Azkaban, Harry Potter reference. So what are your additional thoughts about these first 3 episodes and the direction that the kids are going? You know, just your general, how are you feeling?
I felt like it was a hot mess. It's like, you know, it seems like she feels like she's a good mom, but then there's a lot of things being overlooked. But then I don't know how she would know to dig into, you know, Ginny's self-harm, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or even understanding what the potential long-term effects of her, you know, her son running his father in jail, you know, in jail and things like that. Like, I don't know, because Austin, out of all the kids, although we have the opportunity to see Ginny's life, I think Austin is the one that's really going to need a lot of help.
I would agree with that, especially because it seems like he has to be pushed into this fantastical reality to even survive. Yeah, yes. Right. He's wearing glasses to feel like he's Harry Potter. He thinks he's sending letters to his dad in Azkaban when he's going through something. Ginny transports him to a fictional world in books. I mean, granted, we're supposed to feel that he's okay doing this because he's 9, but as we move forward, he definitely has a lot of issues that are not being addressed. Mm-hmm. And that's very concerning to see such behavior in a child so young. So let's move on to mid-season, Delora. We're going to talk about episodes 4 through 6. So Mean Mom Cynthia and Georgia have a full-out feud and go toe-to-toe over the back-to-school fundraiser, with Cynthia wanting the annual bake sale and Georgia suggesting and ultimately winning, again with that resourcefulness, a casino night, right? Because it really came down to, well, Georgia got busted by Mayor Paul for opening credit cards in Austin's name when he was watching Austin. He calls in HR. She makes him feel guilty and essentially uses that to get her way with this casino night. So, you know, it was a manipulation. And as an audience, we just are still trying to decide, is Georgia good or bad? Because in this case, yes, it seems like she's doing what she has to do because her money is tied up, but are you potentially going to ruin your son's credit?
Girl,
you know,
you're a mess.
It's just a lot morally to have to contend with, right? And then Georgia throws this casino night, but she has an ulterior motive. She's stealing money from the event.
Yep.
She quadruples their profit year over year, though. That whole principal for a day ruse reeled in $20,000 alone.
That was impressive.
Lord Jesus. Rich people, okay? We see Ginny going through some growing pains in her relationship with Hunter, because as I mentioned, by the end of the beginning of the season, he asked her to be his girlfriend. She sends him a sexy pic, and when he doesn't respond, she also sends it to Marcus and experiences her first big O with some sexting and an electric toothbrush. Delora, what'd you think of this scene?
I thought it was interesting. I mean, okay, so I think one of the things that this show tries to do is give us an idea of what today's teenagers are going through, because obviously you and I did not go through social media.
No, ma'am.
Cell phones. It was a big deal when I got a brick just to call my parents at the end of the day, okay, when I was in high school. So let alone having a camera on my phone. And so, you know, Ginny learning about herself in this new environment and craving that validation. You know, I thought, I don't know, I didn't appreciate how Hunter didn't send anything. Like, because in some ways it's like, I don't think she should have sent the picture in the first place, but that's me being old school. But for her boyfriend to go the whole night and not send anything, of course she sent it to somebody who was going to respond to her, potentially. I don't know. But yeah, all about self-discovery and validation and things like that. And I thought it was interesting. What did you think?
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely teenagers, right? This is a very teenager-y moment and scene. I'm like, yes. I get it. You're at a very, I mean, even as women, grown women, we still have that fragility and, you know, yes. wanting to feel, you know, attractive, especially to our significant other and all those yes. things. But I think I was at the point again where I was already feeling like Ginny and Marcus had that connection. And so if you're going to say now you're in this relationship with Hunter, I didn't appreciate appreciate it. I get it in that moment that it felt some type of way to you, but it was just like, really, Jenny? Like, if you want to be with Marcus, please go ahead. Like, I don't want to play this game with you. And I think that it was a product of being a teenager, filling the situation out. You've never had a boyfriend. You've never been in these romantic situations. And these are learning lessons that you're going to go through at this age. I mean, she's 15 years old. So, you know, I thought it was a very interesting scene that they put into the show, especially with that electric toothbrush. So Jenny ends up getting taken out of school in the middle of the next day by her mother to go get birth control, because she said, listen, I busted you taking topless pics, so I'm assuming you ready to be having some sex soon. So let's do what we got to do. Hunter, meanwhile, because him and Jenny finally talk at Battle of the Bands, and she tells him, you know, I just felt like you don't really like me. You know, I sent you this picture, you never even responded. He's like, listen, I like you so much. Writes and performs a song for her that goes viral at Battle of the Bands and gets her some popularity and power at school. Let's be honest. Because she started acting like a little bit of a mean girl. I mean,
was Queen Bee.
Yeah, she was a little Regina Georgia-ish there for a little bit. Georgia and the mayor start dating. Do you think everyone has a penguin, as Georgia mentioned? Do you think everyone has a penguin? That thing?
I think a penguin could be anything from maybe a career to a significant other, right? It just, you know, it just doesn't take off. I'm sure people can identify penguins in their lives. Yeah,
that bird that just cannot fly. I liked that though. I liked that analogy. Their date turns to a bit of a scandal though, or them dating, because Cynthia announces it publicly along with her run for mayor, because she's fed up with the shenanigans.
See that coming? Like,
I mean, one would think. I mean, it's definitely going to be problematic that you're dating someone in your office. It's definitely going to be problematic that Cynthia now has this grudge between her and your significant other. You know, it was just the chips were stacking against them for sure.
And she was the new woman in town too, you know, and
she's hot, so that didn't help. A PI comes sniffing around town, Delora, hired by Kenny's ex, really puts Georgia on edge because, again, she's contesting the wheel. Georgia knows her way around a firearm, though, because we see her kill a bunny, assassin style, with a silencer. I have in my notes, wow, like, ma'am.
I thought it was like a dart or something, or was it a...
That was a bullet. She killed that bunny. You see her throw it away in the trash. She killed that bunny.
Oh, yeah.
Girl, Georgia don't play. Again, it's layers. We're seeing more and more layers. And it's always mixed in this, wrapped in this bow of like, is this Real Housewives? What am I watching? You know what I mean? Because she always does it with a smile and thinking she probably smells like, Chanel. You know what I mean? Like, it's just always very strange.
She does it in heels, pumps.
Exactly. We also see in a flashback, though, she shot her stepfather in the hand because she comes back as a teenager.
Yes.
Goes back to that trailer, shoots him in the hand. What I put in my notes was this persona she's created is impressive, because when you're seeing these flashbacks, you realize that the person she is now, she created this person, right? This is not who she was in any regard growing up.
She was so soft-spoken and, insecure. Granted, she was 15 years old, but it's almost like her armor.
It absolutely is her armor. That smile she always fixes on her face, her body, her beauty, all those things. And we hear bits of that from Jenny's narrative, but Jenny's narrative is also coming from the perspective of a daughter who is both seemingly loves her mother and hates her mother, right? So it's almost like what you said in previous podcasts of like, can you trust her narration? Because it's a very skewed perspective, you know?
It is.
What are your thoughts on those Britney Spears Halloween costumes that we inevitably get to? Because Bracia did not seem impressed. She came in as Halle Bailey, as Ariel, and she was like, oh, sis, this is what you decided to do? So what'd you think about this scene?
Well, since I'm #free Britney, I loved it. And obviously I loved it because according to these children, it's so retro. But I grew up having my mom telling me she didn't want me watching the Oops, I Did It Again video because she did not appreciate that red skin suit.
Yes, Brittany. I'm not that innocent. I actually felt like Jenny should have worn that because it would have played like a wink wink into the fact that she's not a virgin anymore and is not as innocent as everybody thinks she is.
Exactly. But I loved it because, I mean, come on now. Toxic era, like, you know, I hate to say slave for you now, but you know what I mean? The things we used to do back in the day that's like, oh, why did we do this? Okay. I loved it though, but I understood what's her name again?
Bracia, where she's coming from. Yeah.
Where it was coming from. But I felt like it was pretty harsh in some ways, but then at the same time, the way Jenny has blown her off in the past to me is kind of like reciprocal.
Yeah, because she had invited her to like leadership. She blew that off, but she never really invited her to this Halloween party. I think it was supposed to speak to the fact that Bracia feels like she's really trying to assimilate into this white world, and she was trying to be there for her. And it's like, oh, this is just another example of you kind of being able to toe that line in a way. So definitely understood it, but I thought the Britney outfits were cute as well. I really loved the costumes. And shit, I was Cher from Clueless one year, and you want to know why? Because first of all, we don't do Stacey Dash, and second of all, because I will never be somebody's sidekick. A black woman is never somebody's sidekick. Okay, so I was Cher. Anyway, let's talk.
Cute outfit too.
Thank you. Let's talk extended family. Okay, in flashbacks, young Ginny and Zion seem to have support from his parents initially in terms of the care for baby Ginny until the parents wanted to become her legal guardians, Delora.
Yes.
Georgia dips out and does what she has to do to make ends meet, like set up a illegal poker ring in her apartment. She leaves, she dips out, she does what she has to do. She don't even tell Zion she's going. Her sister in present day pops up at her house. Georgia's been telling everybody she doesn't have any siblings. She's the only child and her parents are dead. So all of a sudden this sister pops up out the blue, her sister Maddie with her son Caleb. Lies are piling up, right? Now she says, oh, I haven't seen my sister in 12 years, X, Y, and Z. Her sis showed up when she was young as well.
Her own daughter, though.
To everybody.
No one knew.
Everybody. Straight face lied to everybody. Her sis showed up again when she was young in flashbacks as well, when Georgia was out on her own, and she had to kick her out because essentially she couldn't afford to take care of both her sister and Ginny, which, I mean, honestly was very understandable, right? Because she is a teenage runaway. Yeah, she was a teenage runaway. Yeah, it was hard. And she was also her sister though was also being abused just like she was. So, you know, you feel that pit in your stomach like, oh, I'm so sorry that you both went through this horrible thing. Mm-hmm. But it turns out that Georgia's sister in present day was working with that PI, Delora, to dig up dirt on her sister for money. Loyalty, okay?
Well, my deal is her sister did her wrong when she left New Orleans the first time. You know what I mean? And granted, maybe she felt justified because Mary left the home and left her behind, but it's only so far. You can only use that excuse for so long, I felt.
And I am not your parent. I did not bring you into this world. I understand I'm your sibling and I want to watch out for you, but I had my own child that I created to look out for, you know? I was scared for a minute, though, of what Georgia was going to do to her sister. Because, again, we've seen Georgia ain't one to fuck with. So I was a little nervous there for 2 seconds.
Her sister wasn't really motivated to do much either. It's
no.
Like, help me help you.
She was looking for a handout. And so Georgia was like, fine, here's your $10K, which is double what you were asking the PI for. Get the fuck about my house. Okay. And it was a moment of a crack in the facade of Georgia, because you see her really struggle with it. You see her kind of getting emotional. She was enjoying her sister being in town, but inevitably, as always, Georgia's putting her kids first, herself first, in the sense of, hey, I have to do what I have to do, and you're not loyal to me or my family. So
I mean, she really cannot trust her
at all,
and she's already juggling so much. She had to go.
Absolutely.
Her sister had to go.
The kids are definitely not all right though, Delora. Little Austin stabbed Cynthia's son, his school bully, in the hand with a pencil. Gets suspended. Also, savage. Girl, I was afraid at first he was gonna stab that kid in the eye. I didn't even look at the first time I couldn't even watch. also sets fire to the front of the house, like the little vegetable garden I think it was his mother had with Caleb, his cousin, at first. My question was, is he taking after his mother? Is he crying out for help? Clearly Austin needs something. He's going through something.
Austin needs real supervision. I mean, during the Halloween episode, he was in the house by himself watching scary movies, whereas Ginny and Georgia were, Ginny was at a party, Georgia was out. It's like, who's watching this kid?
Nobody. And then remember, Georgia, when they did the little car picnic, thought that Austin didn't know what this one Shaggy song was about, and he was like, it's about having sex on the floor and getting caught. So it's like, Georgia, do you know all of what your son does and goes through and what he's aware of?
And I think she can have those assumptions because he keeps it to himself, right?
Yes.
And he is so much more vocal than Austin. So there's she's able to at least know where she could help Ginny. Whereas Austin, it's like, he's a chess, you know what I mean? And, I don't know how she can open up. I think she thinks she can just solely do it through Harry Potter references. But at some point, we got to have some real world conversations.
Absolutely. That is such a great point. And I wonder if it also comes down to gender, right? Because Ginny is a woman. She's a little more vocal. Austin is a boy. He's being groomed in the world as probably being a little more insular. And he also has less guidance because he has never known his father, right? At least Ginny has had her dad around, has had this other parental figure.
Yes.
Austin has not. It's just a lot for a little kid to go through. So I felt for little Austin. He has a special place in my heart in the show.
It's like children are resilient. However,
and this is a very formidable time.
Exactly. You need to step up somewhere instead of trying to find a man.
Girl. It's always about a man again. Ginny found Georgia's secret hideaway in her closet, including her gun, right? They lived in Texas. I'm surprised that Ginny was surprised. The fact is, she was surprised. It was something she wasn't aware of about her mother. They almost end up shooting each other, Lord Jesus, but thankfully do not. And I
hated all those scenes with the gun. I hated it because I just thought that there was going to be a freak accident or something.
It seemed like there was a lot that could have gone bad with it. But again, I was surprised. Like in Miss Congeniality, the one lady said, it's Texas. Everybody has a gun. My florist has a gun. Like, I just figured that was the norm. So it wasn't surprising to me. And again, she's a single mother with 2 kids and she's done a lot of shit in her life. So I'm not surprised that but these are things we know as the audience that Ginny doesn't yet know. So by mid-season, we have our 2 leading ladies. We get a little insight into Georgia when she says on her date with the mayor, I want to feel secure enough that I can just be free. That seemed like that really spoke to Georgia in a way that at that point I wasn't sure of, because I had no idea what Georgia wanted. I had no idea who the real Georgia was. So I feel like that was an insight into her soul. And then one question I have for you before we kind of move into the end of the season, are some secrets and lies necessary to keep from your children, you think?
Goodness gracious. Okay. I'm a strong believer in the truth will set you free, right? And so I think there should be, age should come into account. However, there are ways of telling the truth and is without omitting it altogether. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so, and I do understand because, for example, her kid's not knowing she has a sister, right? Because she changed her identity, you can't have loose ends like that, right? But I don't know. I mean, we'll go into it further.
For the end of the season, we will.
When certain secrets are revealed, but I just feel like, I don't know. I don't agree with all the secrets that she had to.
It seemed like she could have given them pieces of information over time so that everything wouldn't hit them at once and feel like such a shock or feel like, how did you never tell us anything?
Because over time, depending on how long you keep a lie, it feels like a betrayal. And we get that with
in this case,
Jenny's reaction.
Yeah.
but it's warranted, you know. You feel blindsided, and no one enjoys that.
And as far as murder goes, I understand keeping that from your children, but maybe in Georgia's mind, it's like, well, if I tell them one thing, then it's going to be like a domino effect, right? And I rather just shield them from all. But again, from the kids' perspective, if they know nothing, then it will all feel too much when it's all coming out, which, as we're seeing on the show, is happening.
And some of it has a lot to do with, I'm sure, shame, right? Shame and putting herself in those positions and having to do what she felt like she had to do to get out of those situations.
Absolutely, because we still, again, don't feel like we necessarily know the real Georgia. Georgia doesn't give us a lot of vulnerability. It's rare moments that we get her to be vulnerable.
Yes.
So let's move on to the end of the season, episode 7 through 10. Ginny turns sweet 16, tries a new look for a few, aka straightening her hair. Receives a full-out happy birthday tap dance number at school from Hunter. Dad got her piano, loved it. Of course, Marcus knows how to play the piano as well as paint. Gave her a portrait he did of her. Lord Jesus, man is talented. Ditches her mom's plans with her and her friends for drinking at Max's parentless house, which I kind of felt the type of way about. I mean, Georgia really did go to a lot of effort. You know, you could have enjoyed a little bit of it. I get it. But just a little bit, maybe.
Giving her such a hard time that just kind of felt like, well, it must be the fact that she's a teenager at this point, because there was no logic behind it, in my opinion.
She was also still upset about the long lost aunt and all these lies, and I understand that. But again, it's your birthday. You don't want to enjoy any of it? Okay, go ahead and sulk. That's fine.
I can cry if I want to.
Exactly. Taking after her mama. Hunter gave her another gift, I have in quotes, at Max's house. That first oral experience. Thank you so much, Hunter. Too bad Georgia called the cops on them when she realized they left to party. Mayor Paul had to bail her out. Told her before he even told Georgia that he loved Georgia.
Oh, wow.
Yes. Mayor Paul is doing quite a bit. He's taking on those daddy duties, okay? Georgia broke down and told Ginny afterwards some real truths, finally, that she was molested by her stepdaddy, which is why she ran away at 14, and also that they're broke. So she feels like, you know, hey, at least I'm giving you some nuggets. I'm giving you some things, right? I'm giving you some things that you've been asking for at this point, hopefully that it'll bring us back closer together. It works temporarily. Georgia ups her theft game by end of season by stealing funds from the mayor's office, embezzling, asks her lawyer for a mysterious favor.
Girl.
Due to that PI, Gabriel, aka Jesse, sniffing around, who is fake dating Nick. I felt some type of way. Poor Nick.
And I enjoyed Nick, by the way.
I love when Nick came in that full ensemble for karaoke.
Yes.
I love Nick, okay? Jenny's dad, girl, Zion, comes to town. Hell of an entrance at school, by the way. They gave this man a full moment.
Yes.
Full moment. Funny that he picked up immediately on her thing with Marcus, because Georgia had no clue.
Zero.
Had plans to stay this time, because apparently he never stays for long, and he is attempting.
I did appreciate him having that connection with his daughter, though. Like, he knew her.
Yes, you could tell that he has a layer of a relationship with her on a honest, I guess more probably honest basis, so he can see her better than her mother can.
Yes.
He's planning to stay this time because, like I said, it seems like he is, from what they say, always kind of coming and going, and be there for Jenny, and also wants to be a family. Well, you know, he wants to be a family.
Stay in one spot, please.
Delora, he's trying to be a family.
I'm a photographer. I'm an
Delora,
author.
it's different this time. Delora, it's different. He wants to rekindle things. He wants to be a family man now. He took her to a whole poetry slam. He did a poem. He's trying to be different. I'm saying this sarcastically, guys. I'm saying this sarcastically. So at this point, George's love triangle becomes a square.
Wait. I thought about, Negro, you ain't got no job.
Martin reference. I love how he said, like, I don't like to be defined by what I'm doing on any given day. Delora, whose team were you on in this love square for Georgia?
I don't know. because I was concerned about her relationship with the mayor because obviously she's embezzling money, right?
Yes, she is.
And I didn't want him to lose his job on her account, you know?
Yep.
But when it came to Zion, you can definitely pick up on the connection between Georgia.
Those feelings are all the way fresh.
It's like, why have you not, seen this through? And then since we're at the end, I needed more Joe. Joe did not get enough screen time. Joe is so handsome. Okay.
Oh, I love Joe.
He is a real contender. Okay.
I love Joe. Definitely love Joe.
But at the same time, because we are at the end and we know more about Georgia, I don't know if I want, for Joe's sake, for her to be with him.
Yes, right. Because you see that it seems like Mayor Paul, which we're going to get to, especially when we get to the very end, has a better understanding of who she is than possibly even Zion does in terms of the darker aspects of Georgia's character. And let's wait till the very, very end, because I want to get your final thoughts on this for sure. But at this point, I understand you don't know. I love Joe as well, but there's so much going on in the world of Georgia that it's kind of like, Georgia, who do you want to be? And then I can decide who I feel is best for you, essentially.
But wouldn't that story be so beautiful? Randomly met that was a meet cute. Okay,
I mean, when we talked about that quote she said where she wants to feel safe enough to be free, that to me would have been Joe. But I just don't know if she wants to really be that person, because
that's true.
There's a lot that I think she revels in some of her worst qualities. I'll say that. So Ginny, we got to talk about this major fallout with Hunter. So Ginny has a major fallout with Hunter due to a school essay contest that he won, but she felt she should have won because, again, it's this racist teacher, Mr. Gittin, calls her essay unconventional, even though she gets a standing ovation in class, led to a verbal smackdown, this ugly war of words that lit social media afire regarding minority oppression, or as they called it, the Oppression Olympics. Hunter is half white, half Taiwanese. We know that Ginny is half black, half white. What were your thoughts on this scene?
This scene was almost embarrassing for me. Like, I was getting secondhand embarrassment because I'm like, who wrote this? Did a woke white person write this? Okay, let's go. Oppression Olympics. What?
Actually, this scene came about because Sarah, the creator, invited both Hunter and Ginny's characters over to her house, and they are the ones who came up with the harshest parts of this dialogue based on their own experiences. So, you'd be surprised to hear that they were the ones who had those punches to throw, right? Because the part that I think social media really went ham on is the fact that these are two biracial characters who are going at it in a scene that almost felt out of place in the context of their relationship.
In the show, in terms of like real conversation when it comes to race, because I mean, it's highlighted, like we mentioned, in certain scenes, like the police officer in the car, and, Ginny getting her hair done on sophomore night. We have those small moments, but this just seemed like a major bomb. So these are my thoughts about this argument. With Hunter was great on paper, but I never trusted him. I felt like he was a good guy for being a good guy's sake, meaning I felt like he liked the attention of being a good guy. Like, even the things he did for Ginny, in some ways, I wonder if he did it for Ginny or if he did it because he thought that's what a good boyfriend is supposed to do. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, that's interesting.
And so this all came to a head in this argument because the way he fought dirty, the way you fight says a lot about how you feel about the other person. It shows, again, the level of respect, going back to the Quavo Saweetie situation. And if you're willing to swing me across the room or just throw verbal grenades my way, you don't respect me, and you sure don't love me. You know what I mean? And to me, this was his true colors. I'm like, I never really, I felt like I couldn't trust him. He was just too quote unquote perfect for me. And his real colors showed in that fight.
Interesting. What I was saying about the reaction on social media, I didn't have that same reaction when I initially watched the scene, because I was just thinking like, well, I don't come from either of these perspectives, right? I'm not half black, I'm full black, and I'm also not half Taiwanese. So I was more so thinking like, is this shit true? Like, is this y'all's perspectives as these, you know, people, that I didn't even think about it at the first time, or at least initially, as much about like, oh, that was ugly between two people who are in a relationship. I was just like, hold on, is this a perspective? First of all, I didn't know that you may have had to go serve in war. That's a new one for me. So I think I was so focused on like the facts that at first it eluded me. But then let's get to the actual relationship. So again, I liked Hunter. I did not think of Hunter's character as being that calculating. I thought of Hunter as being more mature than the majority of his peers, because I felt that whenever situations came up with Hunter, to where initially with the issue where it seemed like Ginny was upset with him, he came to her, he was communicative, he spoke to her about it. That's not something that a lot of teenage boys do. He told her, listen, I want you to know that I respect you. I respect what, you know, you beyond just your physical. Yes, I think you're hot, but I don't want to just fuck. That's not the point of this. I also felt that in times Hunter was so focused on his next levels, like what he wants to do career-wise and all these things, that he's going to be appreciated by women more than he's going to be appreciated at this point in time in his life as a teenage boy. So I didn't see Hunter's character as being having this level of, well, I'm just playing this role. I took him as genuine in these moments. But in terms of this particular argument, the reason why I think I wasn't so adamant against Hunter is because in my mind, Ginny started it. Ginny started the argument by saying, how Asian are you anyway? And X, Y, and Z. So, you know, there's certain points in time and certain things that somebody's going through where if you push me, if you say something to me that triggers me, yes, my reaction is going to be such where let's go there. I don't think it negates or completely takes away from the positives of his character, but I think it was a moment of ugliness because you pushed me a button that it exploded, and here's where we are. But I can't say that he was 100% wrong, because Ginny popped off at the mouth a few times during this show, and this is one of those moments where I said, Ginny, you weren't ready for the response because you started this argument at a disrespectful level, and unfortunately it stayed quite disrespectful.
So the last thing I'm going to say about this is I hear what you're saying, and I'm not saying that Ginny didn't deserve what she got, but I feel like there was a level of competitiveness between them as well. And I feel like he wasn't willing to hear her out because the teacher, and we as an audience got a chance to see the teacher only highlighting Hunter when Ginny was just as good, and for whatever reason she didn't, tell her friends or anything like that. So I feel like ego got in the way of in that argument as well. Thinking, oh, well, I deserve this. And it's like, oh, no, she deserved it too. You know what I mean?
I can totally see that, because they set it up for sure with them, especially in English class, where that first assignment, he said the only person who got a perfect score was Hunter. But we see that Ginny also got a perfect score. I even mentioned that in a conversation I had recently, that I think one of the things that will take away from Hunter's character is that they kind of set them up academically as being rivals, in a sense where he was always kind of taking something from her that she really wanted. And again, what Ginny submitted was outstanding. Her peers gave her a standing ovation. So to be completely overlooked in that moment, especially as Black women, was very upsetting. But it's
borderline devastating.
Yeah, but I couldn't, at the same time, like I said, because of how it was set up, I couldn't say, oh, Hunter, I don't agree with the way that it was presented, because at the end of the day, again, Ginny, sometimes you popped off a little bit too much for me. And this was absolutely one of those scenes where it's like, well,
but she
don't start
did
nothing,
want her
won't be
boyfriend
nothing.
to be empathetic to her, and
But
he didn't do any of that.
But
Like,
he's
because of his
been
ego.
empathetic at certain times. I just feel like Ginny, if you don't say sometimes exactly what Ginny wants to hear, then immediately she says you don't understand me or you don't understand. So it's hard for me sometimes, especially because she's a teenager, to always side with Ginny, because Ginny doesn't want to hear reason either. Ginny wants someone to say, well, Ginny, you're right. And I get it. That's your boyfriend. You want that support. But he also has his own perspective he's coming from. Like, Hunter is also a full person as well. That's all I'm saying is, it's not that, first of all, I don't want to make it seem like I'm coming down hard on Ginny, because I'm not. They're both teenagers. I felt that Ginny, what she submitted was exceptional, and I especially did not appreciate the way she was overlooked academically, as someone who takes academics very seriously. But I also did not take away from Hunter's character because of that. And I don't want to keep harping on it, because I know we're gonna have to agree to disagree. But for sure, Delora, I hear you, and I think a lot of people will have that same perspective, especially because of how it was set up in terms of their academic rivalry almost that they had against each other in school. So Marcus, on the other hand, declared his love for Ginny after some harsh words from her, though. Granted, she just saw her parents together in bed and she was really hoping that they were not going to go down this path again. He gets on his motorcycle and gets in an accident.
Is Georgia responsible?
Not in this moment, because it's one of the first times we see her act very rashly. Remember, she said, oh, I'm always careful. I always think things through. And yet in this moment, we see her immediately, because she was feeling some type of way, run into the arms of Zion. You promised, Ginny, this time was going to be different. You promised. Ginny regrets her words, though, apologizes, but unfortunately, Delora, Max gets quite upset when she finds out about Ginny and Marcus, because she finds his phone. Max makes a spectacle of it. It's a whole thing at her. She wins the lead and sing at school. It's a whole thing with the students outside the auditorium talking about it. Do you think Max overreacted to this situation?
Absolutely. I didn't think it was. I personally, I was not able to recall a time where she said that her brother was completely off limits. I feel like, yes, she might have felt, blindsided that maybe they were sneaking around, which they were, obviously. But in some ways, I really thought she could have been happy for Ginny in some ways, and guess who told Ginny not to tell? Abby. Abby was one of the people, oh, you can never tell her.
Ruin it.
Never tell her.
Don't ruin Mang.
So,
Their name.
No one wanted to, take the time to do all that explanation. But I didn't think it was that. I didn't think it was the end of the world. I didn't get it. Did you?
No, I mean, I think Max's character was very dramatic throughout the entirety of the show.
It was a lot.
And I understand, I think from her perspective, it was the lie more so than the deed. But I just felt like, I mean, Max, can we at least have a conversation? You know what I mean? Like, can you at least say, hey, Ginny, again, this is my frustration now as an adult. And I understand that when I'm watching shows with teenagers, I look at things from an adult perspective now. I relate more to the parents than I do to the kids. So I just get more frustrated sometimes with these situations. I get it, though. She was upset because why didn't you tell me? We tell each other everything. You're my best friend. But she absolutely, in my mind, blew it up. And then it became just so ugly because then, she thinks that Abby betrayed her as well. And then it's the boys in the hallway and Hunter punches Marcus in the face. It just devolves. And then the last thing I wanted, especially because everything is Ginny's going through, is for her to hate herself, because you almost feel like after all is said and done, she goes right back to kind of how she was at the beginning, this more sullen, dark person. And I hate to see that in one of our main protagonists, you know what I mean? So yeah, like, it was a bit devastating.
Everything that she worked so hard to gain.
Yeah, it was a bit devastating for sure. So I'm going to roll through kind of the couple more things so we can get to kind of our final thoughts on this for the sake of time. So P.I. Gabriel discovered Kenny was in great health prior to his death, and discovers Georgia grows Wolf's Bane, which is poisonous and causes heart attacks. In flashbacks, we see Georgia almost lost Ginny to the state when she was busted for that poker ring, so she agreed to marry her sleazy, slimy boss slash landlord. Seemed like he was controlling, but Georgia, after only a couple weeks, kills him. Dolores, she puts a pill in his drink and then runs back to Zion because, again, she had left Zion and his family.
She felt trapped, though. He didn't really want her going anywhere.
Yeah, it seemed like he was going to be very controlling, right? So it's almost like, can we classify her now as a Black Widow, perhaps? Because, I mean,
absolutely,
this is
that's
two
what
husbands.
I have in my notes.
Girl, two husbands down. Two husbands down, right? Zion.
By any means necessary.
Truly. Zion ultimately ends up leaving Wellsbury because he feels Georgia wants him to go, but he stays close because he got an apartment he wanted them all to go to in Boston. And on the flip side, Mayor Paul proposes, right? Ginny blackmails Mr. Gittin into signing a college recommendation letter for her so she does not go to the school board about his racism towards her. I put in my notes, though, she's only a sophomore, so could this come back to bite her? Like, you have to be in school with this man for another 2 years.
Well, part of the conversation, a lot of those parents had their kids getting ready for college. So no, I don't think it was necessarily too premature. And plus, if she's in his class now, it's fresh, right?
I mean, clearly it seems like she's going to get this off unless this pops back up in season 2. It was just one of those things I was like, oh, you got to be in school with this man for another 2 years. We'll see how this goes.
But guess what? He was scared and he signed it.
Oh, he sure did with the quickness because he knew, listen, this is not the time. This is not the era, baby. You're on the losing side. Little Austin continued to struggle. He was even skipping school. Delora, he found those letters from his dad.
Where did
in his
this
mom's
boy
closet.
go during school time? That was my question.
I don't know what he was doing, but thankfully he made it. So he found those letters from his dad in his mom's closet during a game of hide and seek with Zion. He was devastated. He stopped talking. Ginny helped him mail the letters ultimately to his father. That's really left unsettled for season 2, if there is one, Netflix. Georgia ultimately loses both her children's trust due to her lies. I was worried for a minute, though, when he was in that closet, he was going to grab one of her guns. Because, again, we've seen him stab a kid.
I hated every gun scene in this show. Girl, because I didn't want someone to get startled and then shoot it. It was unnerving.
Ginny and Austin burned the Wolfsbane and dip out by the end of the season because Ginny and P.I. Gabriel have a little chat at Joe's place of business, and she learned some hard truths about her mother and about Kenny's death.
But she protected her mother in that conversation.
Ultimately showed the loyalty that I needed, and I know this is debatable at the end of how we feel about Georgia, but I needed in that moment for her to still be on her mother's side. I'll say that. Cynthia,
I mean, she killed 2 men for her.
She did. This point. Cynthia gave Mayor Paul a bit of a run for his money in his re-election campaign with her smear attempts against Georgia and snooping of Georgia's thievery. But he ultimately wins in the end. He's reelected. His fireworks provided Georgia the perfect opportunity to get rid of Kenny's ashes to cover up his murder. Wow. Give me, Delora, your final thoughts on the show and your predictions for where Ginny and Austin have gone.
So this is why this show didn't get a very high marking for me, because I was invested. I wanted to know what was happening. I was invested in the love triangle between Ginny and the boys and Georgia and the men. But the way they were painting Georgia at the very end just seemed extremely dark, and to the point where, even as an audience member, you the way we casually said, oh yeah, she killed 2 husbands for Ginny. You know what I mean? Like, you're still rooting for her, but it's like, are we supposed to? If this woman is willing to put ashes in freaking fireworks and she does this evil smile at the end. And so my final thoughts also with Ginny leaving with Austin. Why did she leave with this little boy on a motorcycle in the rain? I just don't understand.
Thank you.
My thing is, I feel like they may be going to her father's, or, the only 2 options for me is Zion's place or Zion's parents' place, but Zion obviously living closer to town is the obvious choice. Yeah. But yeah, I just was very confused at the end. Like, where are we going with this? Like, is she this evil woman with this evil intent? Because I didn't think she enjoyed killing these men. I think she did it out of necessity.
Right.
And she was happy every time she won or got away with it.
Right.
How to get away with murder.
Exactly.
What about you, Ashley?
So at first I was with you on her going to Zion's, but then when I watched that Netflix after show they had with like David Spade and all of them, they said that there were so many clues in what she packed, and she wore that Atlanta biker jacket of her mother. So I was like, well, they do kind of leave it out there that we don't know how long Georgia had that mentor in her biker chick. So I was like, well, maybe she's going to Atlanta and she's going to track down that lady because maybe she knew her. But your whole point about her taking her brother, I've said this in almost every conversation I've had, it leaves such a kink in it to me, because you going off is one thing, but you taking your 9-year-old little brother, like that's going to be very hard for you to do as a runaway at 16. You know, it just elevates the difficulty of you doing what you're hoping to do, essentially, which we don't really know yet. So season 2 is going to be juicy. We see P.I. Gabriel just finding out about George's first husband. So it seems like he's a dog with a bone. He's not about to let this go. So, you know, I'm here for a season 2. I think based on how it's doing in the Netflix, you know, world, we're going to get one. So I'm here for it. I hope that we get some opportunities for healing for this family, because this family has some struggles, man.
Yeah. And, you know, I would watch a season 2. I'm not opposed to it. You know, again, how they build it up for her and her, you know, making these friends for her to lose literally everything at the end.
Except maybe Marcus, because Marcus comes back and says, you know, I didn't mean what I said, and
Is
I
he
do
worth
love
keeping
you.
Though?
I can't tell you. That's going to be up to little Ginny, because, you know, Padma gave her the warning, and I feel like Padma was better than me, because Padma, I think, really had feelings for him. And you're telling the next one, like, listen, here's what I've been through. I just want to give you some words of advice. Like I said about, I think Hunter is not yet appreciated by the women of his age group. I think Marcus still needs to grow into being a man, and that's obvious at 15 that's a part of his journey. And maybe he's not yet at a place where he would be a good boyfriend for Ginny. And Ginny also has her own shit to deal with. Ginny has her own baggage that she really has to deal with, and the main source of that baggage is her mother. So I need her to resolve her family issues, and then maybe I can focus more on her love life, right? And as I said before, who Georgia ends up with is ultimately going to be dependent on who she wants to be. I think her and Mayor Paul will have a great career in politics, because Georgia ruthless, and Georgia's going to do what she needs to do to get her man elected.
Exactly. And I think that will be fun to watch. And with that, I actually don't mind her being with the mayor, especially after he showed his true colors of like, oh, you think I didn't think you slept with him? That's
girl.
Fine.
I
know who you are.
That's just some little unresolved feelings, girl. Don't worry about all of that.
He's like, there is a means to the end. And as long as I get to point B, okay.
He is a politician, and she is the woman for him in politics for sure.
And again, that also shows his savviness. Like he you know, real recognize real. They saw each other in each other.
Legit, Delora. Legit. So does she want to be that person, or does she want to settle down and be with Joe and live a different life? We'll see. So that's really our recap and the end for Ginny and Georgia, guys. We hope you enjoyed it. We hope that you had a lot of thoughts that you're willing to share with us, especially on these love triangles and squares, because we would love to hear it. But Delora, that's what I got.
Thank you, Ashley. Okay, so now it's time for Hidden Gems. I'll go first. Okay, so my first hidden gem is a brand spanking new Netflix original series called Country Comfort. If you enjoy the fake country accents in Ginny and Georgia, you'll enjoy them in this film, or in this series starring Catherine McPhee and Eddie Cibrian. It's about Catherine McPhee being an aspiring country singer. You know, she has a beautiful voice, and she somehow becomes a nanny of a widower, and his, like, I think there's like 5 children or something. And PG-13 episodes are literally 25 minutes. I watched it in a day.
All right.
I watched it on a Sunday. Very easy watch. Recommended just because it's family friendly, and sometimes finding easy, family-friendly shows are very hard to come by sometimes. All right, and my second and final hidden gem this week. All right, so Justin Bieber has this new album called Justice. I'm not gonna lie, he has freaking Martin Luther King interludes, and it makes me want to roll my eyes and ask why. However, he has this one song called Loved by You featuring Burna Boy that is delightful. I love it. I love it. And I highly recommend it. And if, Burna Boy, I became aware of him, of course, courtesy of The Gift, Beyonce's project for Lion King. And he's just super talented. So he has that Afro beats situation going on. And, Justin likes to dibble and dab in international sounds. So, i.e., sorry, you remember that?
Yes.
So those are my hidden gems. What about yours, Ashley?
Nice. I have two as well. So my first one is The Last Blockbuster on Netflix.
Savage.
Yeah, it's as it sounds. It's about the last blockbuster, and everybody's like, how could Netflix, who killed Blockbuster, come out with a documentary called Last Blockbuster? But what I love is that in this, you get more background from the CFO of Blockbuster about the demise of it and the fact that it was really based on the financial crisis of 2008 and 2009 and the decisions that were made by the CEO at the time. And that really caused the demise of Blockbuster more than the streaming. So interesting watch.
Competition.
Exactly. Interesting watch, interesting facts. Bend, Oregon is the last standing Blockbuster. You got people coming from all over, including a guy from Spain, just to come visit this final Blockbuster. Okay. Nostalgia factor is there for anybody who loves film, who loves Blockbuster, who remembers what those films smelt like when you took the case out, all those things they talk about. So loved it for all of those things.
Fridays after school,
yeah,
I did my personal pan Pizza Hut pizza.
Oh, girl, I still live for a personal pan pepperoni pizza.
And I would go to those new releases and see what was going on. And that was the weekend, Ashley. That was the weekend.
I mean, it was a different time. And I feel sad that the new generation will never understand. But it was an era and we will always remember it for such. So my second one's Operation Varsity Blues, the college admission scandal. This is another one that is on Netflix. It is exactly what it sounds like, which is that whole college admission scandal that happened back in 2019. You kind of see some reenactments of real life situations that happen and conversations that happen with the FBI wiretap. You get more knowledge on where convictions and things stand today with those involved. It was just a deep dive into it, which I thoroughly enjoyed. I was just very much in a documentary mood this week. So those are my two hidden gems, guys. Feel free to check them out. And as always, appreciate you listening. Delora, love you so much. Thank you.
Love you too, Ashley.
All right. What we doing next week?
You know what? I'm not going to make any promises right now. So.
Not going to make any promises. Well, guys, stay tuned to our social media, as Laura already shouted out at Recapping Podcast, and we will let you guys know what we're going to do next week. But in the meantime, as always, be blessed. Love you. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.